Hey guys, it's Coach Gaglione, your head trainer for USA Powerlifting. I'm going to go through some exercises that you could do with minimal equipment. I'm going to go through some different variations depending on the position your body is in, as well as what equipment you have. So there's obviously many different types of bands and tubing you can get. So whatever you can get your hands on at this time, I recommend. It's going to give you some resistance. We'll also do a video on some body weight training, but today we're going to go through band exercises. We're going to do them from a seated position, just like this. So whether you are, whatever your disability is, if you are in a wheelchair, if you have a spinal cord condition, if you have an amputation of some sort, you could do some seated exercises. And depending on how you anchor yourself, make sure obviously you have a sturdy chair. Make sure you have, if you have a loved one that could maybe spot you, make sure the chair is in place. That would also be very, very beneficial. So I'm going to show you some variations depending on what your limitations are, whatever your overall condition is. I'm happy to kind of help you modify them. You guys could drop some comments below. So this is kind of a very basic band here. This is going to be pretty light resistance. This is going to be good for smaller muscle groups. If I do want to add more resistance, I can wrap the tubing around my hand like so. You don't necessarily have to do that, but it's just a way to kind of add some resistance. Again, making sure that we're not going past the point where the band is plastic. That's where you could kind of run into problems with it tearing. So always inspect your bands, make sure everything is safe. So we want to attack obviously our chest, our triceps, our delts, our upper back. So we want to kind of go through all those, and then our biceps. So if I'm able to anchor this on my feet, or I could potentially anchor this on the chair itself. So this is a bench I'm using obviously, but you could do it against a chair. There's some different options that you could do. So obviously something like this is not ideal because that kind of metal can cut into the tubing, but I'm just showing it for demo purposes. So for now, I'm just going to step on it. You could also, if you have some dumbbells or some weights, you could also put the weight, if you do have some weights or like a plate, you could also put that under the dumbbell, also to kind of help secure it a little bit. So that way it's not kind of flying on your face. So obviously I could also adjust my stance or use some different objects to stretch the band a little bit more. So in the case of something like a curl, not the best option for seated position, but you can do it. You're going to get some good tension at the top. And I want to come down slow. If I come down too far, there's slack on the band. It's not going to give us any resistance. So I want to kind of stop at a point where, and just work this partial range here. So that's a curl variation I could do. A good rule of thumb is to kind of work the motion unloaded first to see your range of motion. If I kind of come up here, I can go into any type of pressing motion. So this is going to give me a good amount of tension here. I don't want to go so far down where the band starts to come like this. So do a plane that's comfortable. So some of you guys might be comfortable with the elbows out. If I have a lot of external rotation, if you don't have a lot of external rotation, you might want to just stay at this partial range here and work with your palms facing together. You don't need as much range of motion at the shoulder, but I'm still getting some great tension on my delts. If that is too easy for you, then we can do a side raise here. And again, I'm not going so far that I lose tension on the band, so don't worry about quote unquote full range of motion. Do a motion that allows you to keep the muscle engaged the whole time. I don't want to go up so high up that I lose position in my shoulder. And I could also do this toward the front. So those are some options for delts, biceps. If the band is a little bit less tension, I could also do an overhead tricep extension. Again, assuming that I have the range of motion to do that. If you don't, that's okay. There'll be other options that you could use for triceps. Another great option for any band is a band pull apart for your rear delt. We're going to keep our elbows straight and pull the band towards our chest and then come back in slow. So I'm keeping my shoulders down. So that's great for the rear delts. So we went through the biceps, the front delts, the side delts. Some other options, if you're able to anchor the band somewhere in front of you, if you do have a bench, or you can potentially use some sort of heavy pole or object. So I'm just gonna loop the band over my rack here. So this is gonna provide a lot of tension, so I can kind of do some rows here, seated. If I come out more, it'd be more of a rear delt motion. So again, I can do some rows. I can do some rear delts if I keep my elbows more straight, if I keep my elbows more bent. So I'm just kind of showing you some options here. If I'm just using a single anchor point, I'll just need to adjust my position of where I'm sitting. So I'm just going to pretend I'm sitting here for just the sake of the video, and that would be more of a full range of motion row. If I drive my elbows out, that's going to work more of my upper back and rear delts. This is going to work more of my lats. Another thing that you can do with the band just for a shoulder warm-up is called a band over and back. So I'm going to add a little bit more tension to the band because I can handle it. Do what's good for you. So I'm going to, again, come through, shrug my shoulders up, take my scapula through a full range of motion, and then coming back. What's nice about the band is depending on your flexibility level, you can grab it closer or wider, depending on what you need to do. So I'm elevating my shoulders, depressing my shoulders, elevating my shoulders. So I'm taking my scapula and my shoulder through a full range of motion. That's a great way to stretch your chest. I could also come here and just do some basic chest flies with the band behind my back. If I do have an anchor point behind me, I could do this with 1 or 2 bands. So something like this, I would recommend using 2 bands for. If you do have 2, so we'll show that quickly. So if you have 2 of the same bands, this will allow for a little bit more versatility. So again, I can do this exercise seated. Make sure the anchor point's secure behind me, so now I can do some flies here. Again, only going to a range of motion I can control, and then there's tension on the band. Squeezing my chest, stretching my chest. I could also kind of come into a pressing motion here, which will mimic my competition bench, so I can mimic the same angle. You just need to adjust the band to make sure it's directly in line with the resistance motion that you want to work. I could also do my triceps here if I'd like, with 1 or 2 arms at a time. If I flip around, this is a very nice, by making an X, I can make a nice rear delt exercise or reverse fly motion here, or I can go into more of my rows or kind of a pull down motion here, hitting it from a little bit of a different angle. So that's some things that you could do with 2 bands. And I could do the same thing here with 2 bands if I'd like. If I could step on the bands or have something on a chair. And again, I could do my side laterals here. I could do my front laterals here. I could do my pressing here. So if I have the range of motion to do this, if not, I can kind of come in here. So you have lots of different options depending on what equipment you have. And with biceps, again, I can come here. So depending on what band tension you have, you can adjust the rep range. So something like a stronger band can be useful for certain bigger exercises. I could also do the overhead press from the front here if I have the range of motion to do so. I could do some curls here. I could do hammer curls, front raises. Lots of options. If you get a couple of different band tensions, you get a little bit more wiggle room there. If I do have some sort of anchor point in front of me as well, so I have like this weight tree here, I could also have some more options in terms of rowing and back exercises. Make sure it's secure. Okay, now for bigger bands, especially for the bigger guys, this could be a really great alternative to the bench press. Put the band around your back. I like to make a couple of twists in it. Put it around the back so it's nice and secure. I could also go against a wall seated And I could do a seated bench press or a fly motion. So this is going to be an excellent way to train the muscles of your competition bench. And if you do have a bench available, I could bring it around the bench here. Just like this. And I'm just going to pretend I have a layover here. I can bring my feet up and kind of mimic my competition bench. So I would have another chair under here, ideally, or some sort of layover. So again, I can do a fly motion or just my competition bench with some heavy bands. So some great options there. I'm going to show you a couple other ideas. If you have any type of, these are called hip circles, but you can actually use these for the upper body as well. I like the small one to train your rotator cuff and the bigger ones to train your rear delts. So I can kind of do, again, pull apart type motions here. And then for rotator cuff work, I can drive the band out. And if you have trouble with your pattern for your bench, this is called an air bench press, good warm up. So I'm driving, spreading the bar, squeezing my pinkies, and working on my bar path. So it's really going to help teach you to keep your upper back tight, engage the upper back the whole time. So again, I can work my rotator cuff here. And if I want to work my rear delts, that's on the wrist. This is above the elbows. So if you have trouble keeping your back arch on a bench press, this is a great exercise to. So I'm going to train that isometric strength here, and then back in slow. Okay. So those are some great exercises as a power athlete if you're looking to improve your bench press with just some band resistance. Give those a try. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. Thank you guys for watching. Until next time, stay strong, and we'll see you soon.